Hello, this is Amritam, and welcome to this exciting video where we will use Cypher for our traffic generating tool to create a lot of applications and attacks through our network security infrastructure. Let's get to the topology. It's a very simple but a very common topology where we have our on-prem set, we have our security systems that's sitting in between, and we have our internet. Cypher has been deployed both on the on-prem and on the internet to generate these applications and attack traffic. And we will go through some test cases. We'll start with very simple web traffic with no policies in our infrastructure. Then we'll add application mixes, attacks, and we'll also start adding some policies. So to understand how different kind of traffic profiles and security would affect our network, let's get to the test itself. So I have prepared all these tests and we have run these tests already, so we know the results, but we'll go through each of these configurations. My first test is this very simplified web traffic, just HTTP downloads and uploads. We have 1,000 users, 1,000 IPs. We have our infrastructure, security infrastructure and network infrastructure, both forward proxy, reverse proxy, and we have the internet where we have deployed a Cypher agent in the cloud to create this inside to outside traffic. As mentioned, I kept this test running and I can now review the results. And you can see it's getting almost 2.75 Gbps as I zoom into the throughput. That's pretty large number considering we are actually going through public internet to cloud accessing this traffic. It's really commendable for the traffic we can get for with HTTP gets and post. I always also check the agent CPU. This is where the Cypher is running to ensure that the test traffic agents itself are not completely drained out of resources, so that we always test the infrastructure that sits in between. Now I move into a little more complicated test. So here, the only big things we have added is application mixes and some attacks, right? So this is where we are trying to replicate what happens in real network. My users, my number of IPs, my profiles and infrastructure is all exactly the same except the application traffic and attacks. So everything else is same like the web traffic. Again, I kept the test running for some time. And now if I zoom into the throughput, just like last time, and you can see that huge dip. Even though there is no security policies and network policies added, my throughput numbers is now 650 mbps from 2.75 gbps that was there last time. You can see all these applications, so you can understand the impact of all these transactions and small transactions and application gravity that can happen on performance. And you can also see all the security attacks are allowed, that is expected because no policies are there. I always check my CPU statistics as a best practice to see my Cypher CPUs are not getting overwhelmed. So that's not the case. Nothing is even close to 50%, so I'm good. So now I run again the same test as previous one, the same kind of application mixes, no changes for apples to apples comparison, the 1,000 users and the same infrastructure. One big difference is now we have some basic deep packet inspection and security policies allowed. I again kept the test running for some time, and you can see even from before we see another degradation. Now it's around 300 320 mbps. Obviously now the security controls and everything else is working harder to look at attacks or any kind of abnormalities within the traffic. So the result is reflected, though we see some attacks getting blocked. So the green means attacks have been blocked, so the security controls are actually blocking some of these critical exploits. And you can then go into more advanced statistics. Obviously we'll cover this in more details in a different video series, but you can look at granular statistics like which attacks were blocked, which were allowed, and what can I do to stop it. You can also look at some individual applications to see whether there were some problems in the application itself. We can see all the applications went through, even though numbers probably are considerably lower than when the security policies were not applied. I always check my CPU resources, and CPU resources of Cypher agents are really low, indicating that the test tool can do much higher. So the performance impact that we see must be lying in the underlying network security infrastructure through which this traffic is passing through. Getting back to our slides, I have now populated this table with all my test case data here. And you can see with this clear text, highly theoretical traffic, I could get 2.7 gigs of throughput, right? And that would tell me that it's a very good system. But the moment I added application mixes, realism, the system literally started burning. We could get 660 mbps with no policies. And the moment we added some security policies, even though the efficacy didn't improve, the throughput even went further down to 330 mbps with 12 to 20% efficacy for the traffic. This shows you that how theoretical traffic data that we get from some of the tools may not be representative to actual realism, real traffic that happens in real life. And that's why we say that, hey, have your theoretical traffic, but also try to introduce some of these application mixes, traffic behavior that would happen to your system in real life, and introduce a tag so that you can measure your true security efficacy and performance through real application traffic and data. Thanks a lot for listening.